hope that you are here. I had a little glitch there for a minute on the first time that we started this. If you're here, please put a little chat in the chat box so that I know that we can start, that someone is here. Otherwise, I am going to start talking about the brain. And this is a bit an overwhelming subject because there's so much we can do. Um, the first thing that we're doing today, and if I can see if any of you are here, please give me a thumbs up or a chat or something like that so that I know that we are all in the same place. And hopefully, I didn't wreck something when I did a double thing. So, okay, so I'm going to just start. I want to tell you a little bit about the brain and about what we're doing today. What we're doing is to do a brain test and find out how balanced your brain is, because the more balanced we are, the healthier our brain, then that makes more reserve. And that's what we're working for, is to get this brain reserve, because the brain reserve will be able to delay, we just be able to think better. We become our best self. So that's what we're looking for. So we want to get our brain reserve growing. And how we do that is find out, first of all, where our brain is right now. So, I'm going to give you a few little brain facts just so that you can see how important it is. First of all, we know that our brain is involved in everything we do. Everything we do, our brain is part of that. And so, when our brain is not working right, it affects everything, it affects our basic health. The brain is a funny thing, it's only 3 pounds. And yet, it takes 80% of all the water that you drink. It uses 20% of all of your oxygen. So you really need to breathe for your brain. Um, when you're not breathing right, your brain gets anxious immediately. It's like, we're going to die. We're all going to die here, because that's the job of your brain, is trying to keep us alive. It uses 20% of all the calories that you use. Hey, will somebody put a chat in? I can see a couple of you here. Just a chat, just your name, so that I know that's working, just in case anybody has questions. I don't know if I have it set up right, but if you can see it on the right-hand side, I'd appreciate it. Now, listen to this. This is just makes you crazy when you think of this. The storage capacity of your brain is like 6 million years of the Wall Street Journal. Of all the things in the Wall Street Journal, 6 million years, that's how much your brain can hold. Thank you, Linda. Okay, so that's it's only 3 pounds, and it can hold 6 million Wall Street Journals. The brain has more than 100 billion neurons. That's the same number that they think are in the Milky Way. The whole Milky Way galaxy is like how many neurons you have in your brain. A slice of brain tissue the size of a grain of sand contains 100,000 neurons, 1 billion synapses, all talking to each other. Just the size of a grain of sand. Now, the brain is soft. It's like butter. And that's why we can damage it. Our skull is hard, thank God, because the brain itself is like butter. So it's those things just fascinate me. Now, the brain is real connected with, we need to keep 4 different like circles going. That's how we stay healthy: physical, social, psychological, and spiritual, emotional. We need all those 4 circles have to keep going. Now, different parts of our brain are respond to each of those different things. So when um, when we do this test now, I want you to be able to see which part of your brain is causing you any kind of grief. Hi there, Rose, Kathleen, Linda. Oh, I'm happy that you're all here. I hope you all have a pencil and a piece of paper, because we are going to get started with our test. And what I want you to do across the top: a 0 is never, a 1 is rarely, a 2 is occasionally, a 3 is frequently, and a 4 is very frequency. When I ask you these questions, you will give it a score of 0 to 4. Never, rarely, occasionally, frequently, and very frequently. Each one of those. And at the end, we'll tally them up, and I'll tell you which part of your brain is acting a little off. And then what we're going to do is give you different ways of dealing with that. Now, I want you to know that this is kind of an overwhelming subject. I told Kathleen this morning, I said, I should have run this past somebody, because I took things, made a speech similar to this in Boston, and it was an hour long, and then I did a class on it, which was much longer, and so I'm putting a lot together. And so some of the things that we're talking about, I think we're going to do different segments, but today I want everybody to get something they can start on. We'll be working this year more on energy medicine for when we do our classes, our working class, our yoga classes. We're going to do more energy medicine, because that's one of the things that our brain is very sensitive to. And we're going to start working on tapping, another thing that Dr. Amen recommends. Now, Dr. Amen is one of the top brain specialists. He's in Seattle. He's done hundreds of thousands of brain scans. He's working with the NFL because they have brain problems with all the concussions and everything. And so he studies the brain and how it all works together. So, question number 1, there's 60 of them. Failure to give close attention to details, careless mistakes. Remember, from never to very frequently. Number 2, trouble sustaining attention in routine situations. Just if you can keep your attention in one place. Number 3, trouble listening. Number 4, failure to finish things. Do you have procrastination? 5, poor time organization. 6, you lose things. 7, easily distracted. 8, poor planning skills. Your lack of, clear glows, you know what I'm trying to say here, or forward thinking. 9, difficulty expressing empathy for others. 10, impulsiveness, saying or doing things without thinking first. 11, excessive worrying. 12, upset when things don't go your way. 13, upset when things are out of place. 14, tendency to be argumentative. We always see the opposite side. 15, tendency to have repetitive negative thoughts. 16, tendency towards compulsive behaviors. 17, intense dislike for change. 18, tendency to hold grudges. 19, tendency to have things done a certain way or you become very upset. 20, tendency to say no without first thinking about the question. 21, frequent feelings of sadness or moodiness. 22, negativity. 23, decreased interest in things that are usually fun or pleasurable. 24, feelings of hopelessness about the future. You know, one thing is this will be here on YouTube that you can come back and do it for someone else or get the questions. So you don't have to write them down or something. So the last one is feeling of hopelessness about the future. 25, feelings of worthiness, helplessness, or powerlessness. 26, feeling dissatisfied or bored. 27, crying spells. 28, sleep challenges, either too much or too little. 29, appetite changes, again, too much or too little. 30, chronic low self-esteem. 31, frequent feelings of nervousness or anxiety. 32, symptoms of heightened muscle tension, like headaches, sore muscles, your hands shake, something like that. 33, tendency to predict the worst. 34, conflict avoidance. 35, excessive fear of being judged or scrutinized by others. 36, excessive motivation. You can't stop working. 37, tendency to freeze when you have anxiety-provoking situations. You just freeze up. 38, shyness or real timid. 39, sensitivity to criticism. 40, fingernail biting or skin picking. 41, Trouble finding the right word. So you just can't find that word. 42, mood instability or changes. 43, a short fuse, aggressive, or periods of extreme irritability. 44, misinterpretation of comments as negative when they're really not. 45, periods of panic or fear for no specific reason. 46, visual or auditory changes such as seeing shadows or hearing muffled sounds. 47, periods of déjà vu, feeling of being somewhere you've never been before. 48, sensitivity or mild paranoia. You kind of always feel like somebody's out to get you. 49, dark thoughts may involve suicide or homicide thoughts. 50, periods of forgetfulness or memory problems. 51, poor handwriting. 52, trouble maintaining or organizing work areas. 53, tendency to have multiple piles around your house. 54, greater sensitivity to noise. If noise kind of makes you crazy. 55, particular sensitivity to touch. Like if you can't stand tags in the back of your things. I had somebody in my house that, cuts them off, rips them off, everything. 56, tendency to be clumsy or accident prone. 57, trouble learning new information or routines. 58, trouble keeping up with conversations. 59, light sensitivity, easily bothered by glare, like with sunlight, headlights or street lights. If that glare, that light sensitivity. Or 60, more sensitivity than others to the environment. And that smells, all sorts of different things like that. Now, I want you to make a line 1 through 10, first of all, because what you're going to do is you're going to find how many A's, or how many ones you have, twos, threes, fours, like that. So between 1 and 10, that's your first one. That's the prefrontal cortex. Is we're measuring from 1 to 10. So see how many threes or fours you had in 1 to 10. Now, 11 to 20, we're doing the anterior cingulate gyrus. 11 to 20. How many threes or fours? Then 21 to 30. And that one is the deep limbic system. Then 31 to 40. That's your basal ganglia. Then we have 41 to 50. That's your temporal lobes. And your cerebellum is 51 to 60. So when you're done there, just give me a little thumbs up or write in your chat here and any questions that you have now. If you have two of the three or four, it's maybe possible that you have an issue in that area. If you have six, it's highly probable that you have an issue in that area. For me, I was interested to just see, because my the temporal lobe is where I had a lot of damage in that first stroke, and I do have trouble finding the right words, saying the right words sometimes, and it's because that part was damaged. And I have done a lot of this work and have pretty much taken care of most of it. But today, goal was a problem for me to say it. I could see it, but it was hard for me to say it. That's because of my temporal lobe, the damage that I've had there. So does anybody have any questions about, do you want a question again, or are you all good with that? Just give me something in the chat here, all good, or however, and then we can kind of move on to the different parts of the brain and what we can do for that part. So if I get a little bit of feedback, I don't know here. I did get the first part where you all were here, so I don't know. Okay, all good from Joan. She has good, and Kathleen, are you all done? Rose, Linda, then we'll move on here to some of these different things. Now, I actually have a t-shirt that has a picture of the brain on it, but this morning, I haven't worn it for a long time, so I think the last time I wore it was probably when I was speaking in Boston about the brain, and so I thought I knew right where it was, and so I couldn't find it this morning. So I'm just going to have to tell you where each of the places are. So the first part that we are talking about is the I guess the prefrontal cortex will be the first one that's the part of your brain that does all of the, they talk about it as the executive part. That's a part of your brain that gives you all sorts of your thinking brain part. So we're going to start with that. You guys, what about the chat thing? I see Joni. Do the rest of you have any questions about any of it or anything like that? Otherwise, I'll start with the prefrontal cortex first. And that would have been, let's see, that would have been the first 10 questions. And what that one, it's this front part of our brain. You can see it if you're looking at the brain. I'm going to show you a picture in the book here. You can see the prefrontal cortex. It's a pretty big part of our brain up here, and it is it does all of our focus, our impulse control, our planning, our problem solving, the expressing your emotions, empathy, all of those things. So if you have problems with it, you might have ADD, a short attention span, disorganization, procrastination, short-term memory problems. You might not have memory impulse control. So one of the things that they suggest for that is called Mozart music for focus. They've tested this on so many people using Mozart for focus, and 3 times a week for like 15 minutes, 3 times a week. And that ADD, they've noticed 70%, 70% of the people it works on to improve their focus. More protein. So if you've got 1 to 10, you might need a little bit more protein. And eliminate sugar, because that increases your dopamine. Now, there are 2 parts of your brain. The one part of your brain, you want to increase dopamine, but if you increase dopamine, you have to lower the serotonin, because otherwise you're going to be hyper focused. So, that's one of the things you want to worry a little bit about. So you don't want to just go crazy with protein, but maybe add a little bit. One-page miracle is a thing, and that you need to clearly define your goals using, if you've got any issues with your prefrontal cortex, you need to know who you are and what you want to accomplish in life. Your relationships. So you start out, the one-page miracle is you start out with your relationships, your spouse, kids, extended family, friends, and what do you want and what do you want to give to each of these areas. Work, money, finances are in there. Long and short goals. Self, your mind. What do you want in life with your thinking, your body, and your spirit? Because the more focused you can be of what you do want, we've been talking about that a lot, it makes a big difference in being able to accomplish it. So that is what we're working on with that. Now, if you have between number 11 to 20, that's your anterior cingulate gyrus. It's called the ACG. And I'll show you right here where it is. It's down here and inside, okay? And now I have these little markers to get to each place. And this one, ACG, it's deep in the middle of the prefrontal lobe. So if you come from here and then just go way back into the middle of your brain, this is where you're going to find the ACG, anterior cingulate gyrus. And if it's balanced, you're going to be able to shift your attention from one thing to another. You're going to have cognitive flexibility. That's what we're trying to grow, is this cognitive flexibility, adaptability. You're going to be able to move from ideal to idea, and you're going to be able to see the options. That's the most important thing. I think maybe you saw that thing that I put out on Facebook yesterday about trying to find the word in the picture. The point is you had to turn it upside down. That's what we have to do with life, with problems. We have to look at it from all sorts of different angles. This is what this does. This is what the anterior cingulate gyrus does, is it makes you be able to move from one thought to another and see it. You have cognitive flexibility. I think this is one of the parts of the brain that is so very, very important. Now, well, they're all important, but this to me is really important. The ability to see the options, the ability to go with the flow, the ability to cooperate, and error detection. to be able to look and say, whoa, I made a big mistake there, so I'm going to move to someplace else. This part of your brain has all of these serotonin receptors. So they're always looking for more serotonin. This is why your vagal nerve is important. When your vagal nerve, because if our serotonin, the most of it, 80% is made in our gut, it goes to our brain, it's going to the anterior cingulate gyrus. That's where it is. This has got just full of serotonin receptors. So if we're over focused, we're stuck. We don't want that. We're rigid. We're inflexible. If it's over focused, you worry too much, even to the point where you might have chronic pain because you're stuck on that pain. PTSD, you're stuck on that emotional situation. Eating disorders. If it's low, you have the short-term attention, impulse problems, disorganization, procrastination, poor judgment, lack of empathy. You're easily distracted. You lose things. Okay, ADHD. When people have conduct disorders, when they just can't behave, this is what is not working. And so we need to work with this neurofeedback, a lower protein diet. This is the one, when we are talking about the prefrontal cortex, they need more. This one needs less. So you really need to balance your protein, balance your complex carbs. If you're stuck, you have to stop those thoughts by distracting yourself. So distract yourself when you feel stuck, when you feel that stuck in one of those thought loops, you have to distract yourself. Pain loop, distract yourself. And just say, I'll come back to you later. Sometimes I think of myself as on a hill looking at a storm coming in. And I sit there and think it's going to just keep moving past me. You can use it with music. Distract yourself with music. Go for a walk. Do a chore. Play with a pet if you have one. Meditation. Focus on a word or a color. This is a good thing to actually color. Write down your thoughts and think to yourself, what can I do about this? Is there anything you can do about it? If there's nothing, then let it go. So if there's something, if that storm is coming in, you're watching it coming in, can you do something? Can you make sure everything is tied down outside? Can you, whatever. Can you do something? If you can't do anything, then just let it go. Let it go, because say, I will get back to you later. That's the thing. To let your brain know you will think about it, but you will think about it later. So the third one is the deep limbic, and that is questions 21 to 30. This is the one that is kind of that my life has been involved with, because this hypnosis works on. This is the one that is the emotional part of the part that definitely, like I say, this is my place. It sets the emotional tone, motivation. It's where the filters are. It controls your appetite, your sleep cycle. It's your sense of smell, your libido. All of those things are in this part of your brain. And I will show you the picture of where you can find it. It is, I don't even know if it's on here. Oh, here. Your brain stem comes right from the back here, and it's on the top of your brain stem. See right up here? It's in the middle, more on the top of your brain stem. So if you go up on your brain stem here, the top of your spinal, and then go in, we can't touch it, but that's That's where it is. And it stores all the emotional events that have happened to you. So anything you've emotionally charged with, you never forget that. This is where it is. This is why you have the PTSD. Um, this is where you bond. This is where a mama and a baby bonds. This is where you bond with your spouse, where you bond with your friends. But it's also where the part of your brain that smells things. This is why the brain is so connected in this part to every smell can set something off. So there's a couple different parts in this limbic system. There's the thalamus, and this is the center, and it relays information from the outside world to the cerebral context with cortex, which you can then think, your prefrontal cortex. And so your RAS is in this part. Remember, I always talk about that filter. This is where the RAS is, right at the top of that brain stem. It's actually in the stem, in those little, like a little almonds. Okay, amygdala is in there, and it's the emotional and fear response. That just is trying to keep us alive. So when you have a lot of fear, you know that it's your subconscious, this deep limbic system, which is part of your subconscious, although it also, your subconscious mind isn't really a brain part. It's in every cell, but it's deep in this deep limbic system too. That's the part where it is in your brain. It's deals with it's just trying to keep you alive. It's where your breath, your pulse, all of those kind of things. Your hippocampus is in there. It looks like a seahorse, and it moves your memories from, it's just kind of this little seahorsey type thing here, and it takes your memories and puts them into long term. Your hypothalamus is there. It's the size. Now, this is kind of an interesting little fact. It's the size of a pearl, just a pearl. It's an emotional center, and it controls your hunger, sex, sleep, happiness, anger, unhappiness, all of your emotions. And it's on like the size of a pearl. It's got so many different neurons that connect to that. So that is really an important piece, but it's so tiny. Your olfactory cortex, that's what you smell, and it affects all of your emotions. In fact, what they're finding now, remember, this is where our memory is being charged up, and they're finding that they can actually do a test that they can start to figure out if people have Alzheimer's by what they can smell. Can they smell peanut butter? Can they smell lemon? Things like that. Because what it does is it hits that part, and we can see if our memories are being sent to the right places. If this is where you can find if people are more positive or hopeful or overactive, they're negative and sad. Long-term emotional events and are stored here. And so we want to make that be balanced. Motivation and drive in this area. It's like a relay system there. This is the just that little pearl is a relay. It sends it to other places. And so this was a funny fact. Napoleon sent a letter to Josephine and said for her not to take a bath for 2 weeks before he came home, because the smell was sexually made him crazy, her smell. I probably wouldn't suggest this, but it is something that worked for Napoleon. But aromatherapy does work. If you're a little low on this, aromatherapy does work. But maybe lavender and cinnamon, those are two that really seem to work a lot. Acupuncture works. Physical exercise really works for this area. Um, uh, Ant therapy, which I have to tell you, it's automatic negative thoughts. Ants, automatic negative thoughts. And I'll explain that in a minute. Gratitude, appreciation, positive bonding, finding purpose and passion. This is where it's going to hit. This is where that part is going to hit. Random acts of kindness, all of those things make a difference to that little pearl, because that's a thing. Now I want to tell you about this ant therapy, because this is one of the things in stress management that is really works a lot. If you think about the fact that Lincoln, because every thought sends this relay station sends it to different parts of the brain. So every thought, a neurochemical is going to flood your body. Okay, so when you think that Lincoln failed at so many things before he became president, before he became one of the most important people in our country, he failed at so many things. Baseball players only ever hit 7 out of 10, your best baseball players. So you want to think of those kind of things when you're thinking of people that are saying, always, this happens to me. No, nothing is always. All or nothing. When you think I have to do this or I won't do this, I have to exercise, because that can also become an obsession. I have to exercise, or this is going to happen to me, or that's going to happen to me, because those are, you become obsessive with that. So focusing on the negative, you have to ask yourself, am I just seeing the negative? Do I have to tip, just like we did with that, from that picture to seeing the words inside of it? Fortune telling, predicting the worst, always thinking the worst is going to happen. That's fortune telling. Or they don't like me. Mind reading. How do you know what somebody else is thinking? Whenever you try to think of what somebody else is thinking, that's mind reading. So unless you have your gypsy license, you might want to question that. You have to question your negative feelings. Am I 100% sure this is true? 100% sure. Guilt. Whenever you see I should, I must, anything like that, let it go, because that's one of those 100% sure things. Labeling. Blaming others for your problems. That's a sure way of causing big troubles. Okay, the basal ganglia, that would be questions 31 to 40. That is about anxiety and fear. And it is way down at the bottom. So way down here, here's your brain stem. To the top of the brain stem, just by that deep limbic system and over to the side just a little bit. It is the center of the brain, and it surrounds the limbic system. So it's integrating the feelings and thoughts and movements, forming habits, setting anxiety levels. So just if you want to form a habit or have less anxiety, this is the part of your brain that you want to work with more. repetitive behavior. This is the part. There was a man on fire in a car, and they got him out. He's on fire, and people were just looking at him. They weren't doing anything. It's because they were frozen. They were just frozen. They didn't know what to do. This is the part of your brain that does that. So you never want to be in the middle of a conflict because it just makes you crazy. People in this with this problem go to jail more often because they feel that attack. They feel like they're being attacked. They have more paranoia about that. They may have more paranoia about who's out there, who is doesn't like them. So you want to slow your breath because you want to lower the triggers of fear and panic. Your brain needs oxygen. When you start feeling this, your brain needs oxygen. You need to get oxygen to it. You know, there's that saying that when you're 18, you worry about what people think about you. When you're 40, you don't really care what they think about it. And when you're 60 or 70 or 80, you realize nobody's really thinking about you that much anyway. And so that's something that we need to remember. All right, so does all those fear things. Belly breathe, warm your hands up. Heart math is one of the things. We'll be talking more about this. This is the one where it's sa, ta, na, ma. This works really well for the basal ganglia, the anxiety. Okay, the next one is basal ganglia. The temporal lobe. This is 41 to 50, and it is the let me see, where are my little cheat sheets here? Okay, this part of your brain is up here. It's behind the prefrontal cortex here. And it's underneath the temple and the eyes. So it's under the temple and then straight back from the eyes. And this one is about your hearing, your reading, your social clues. So if you have a lot of different like autism, it's harder to do social clues. This part of your brain is affected somewhat. Your short-term memory, your processing music, the tone of a voice, mood stability, recognizing objects and naming them. On the right-hand side here, this is the sign where good or bad religion is affected. So if you are stuck again in the idea of religion to the point that it isn't working for you, it's working more against you, this is the place. And the right hand side is more for that. The left hand side is for more aggression, dark thoughts, reading difficulties, anxiety or fear for no reason. And so you want to really think about that and know that you need to do more physical and mental exercises. Anger management is a good one for that. More protein, omega-3s, vitamin C, and vitamin E. E you get in nuts. A low dose of aspirin, and I don't exactly have the reason for that. I will find out about that, but a low dose of aspirin also is helpful for that. Toning, again, singing, dancing, a more balanced diet. This is really a balanced diet affects this part. Listening to Mozart, toning or humming, And when you're toning, it's ah, e, o, 5 minutes a day for 2 weeks, they have found unbelievable results. Drumming, uh, making a library of wonderful experiences. Also, you can do your life through music and know and focus on goals. 10 things you can do when you're upset. So that is, now we're moving down here. That's the temporal lobe. Now the cerebellum is 51 to 60. And that one is the back bottom of the brain. It's called the little brain. It's 10% of your balance, or 10% of your brain, and it's all about your motor control. 50% of all your neurons is this little part of the bottom of your brain. So you really don't want to fall back and hit that bottom part of your brain, of your skull. It's the processing speed. It does about how well we walk, our gait. It's the thought coordination, the physical adjustment, your handwriting, your organized work area. And you can use occupational therapy for that, and a lot of balance exercises. And so that is a part for that. And that's all of the different parts. So when you can look at your brain, look at where you had threes and fours, and how was that affected by just these different parts that I talked about. We're going to be talking about the results of the ideas of the different things you can do for your brain. But think about people that are aging. And so the cerebellum, when you think of 50% of all your neurons are this part on the back here of the little brain, this part down here, 50%, and it's the way you walk and your balance and things like that. Your handwriting, think of when people get old, the handwriting changes. Think of how your brain is affected through the different times. If you could give me a little chat, I would really appreciate it. If you're still here with me, just letting me know if this is too overwhelming or if it was something that was helpful to you. You can tell me what you're really thinking. And I know this is longer, and so it might have been a little bit of a problem that, but please let me know, and I will give me on our chat line or something like that. Yeah, pretty overwhelming. But this is my thing, Kathleen, that I was thinking about when I tried to make this less overwhelming. I usually stop at half away, but the thing is that I wanted everybody to get something from wherever they had more three or fours. So I had to do all of those things at once. And so that was why we did that. We'll be back to shorter ones after this. And thank you for being here today. It's a lot nicer talking to know somebody is out there. So that is good. And have a good day. And we will start working on different parts of it. If you let me know, I guess maybe places that you're interested in more. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.